I have the honor of introducing a powerful sister, one of the most inspiring people I know. She is a Black trans freedom fighter who hails from Columbus, Ohio. Elle turned pain into action by organizing Black trans women from Ohio to have spaces to collaborate, and she works with Get Equal as well as is a strategic partner with the Black Lives Matter team. Elle has and continues to be, again, one of the most powerful, one of the most inspirational, one of the most courageous people I know. I'm asking y'all, as she comes on this stage, please show all your love to Elle Hearns.
Hello, everyone. The law has lied to us. The law has lied to you. Your academic degrees have lied to you as well. If the law really stood for Black lives, we wouldn't continue to have to learn or say the names of countless beautiful Black people who have been murdered. If the law really stood for Black lives, we would understand exactly what state violence is and how it manifests in the lives of Black people. We would know that systemic and structural violence is a form of state violence, along with the very visible forms of police brutality that we all know. If the law really stood for Black lives, the officers who murdered Sam Dubois in Cincinnati, Ohio, would have been fired the first time. They murdered a Black man and got away with it. If the law really stood for us as Black people, we wouldn't have to defend ourselves against the very thing that is supposed to protect us. If the law really stood for Black lives, people from Paterson, New Jersey, to Cleveland, Ohio, would be able to live unapologetically in all of their Black glory without death being a constant in their lives. I wouldn't have been arrested after defending myself against a transphobic attack. The jail that I was placed in wouldn't exist if the law really stood for Black lives. Laws wouldn't be the gateway to a better quality of life. Investing in people would be. The ego of the law would be left at the door when coming in contact with those who are most impacted by laws. We would have a better practice in identifying and connecting to our human existence as opposed to the circumstances that often keep us divided. If the law really stood for Black lives, white people, you wouldn't be so confused about the privilege you carry. There would be specific language around the dismantling of white supremacy, patriarchy, and capitalism. in law if they were really for Black lives. We would have received reparations. We would have received reparations. If the law really stood for Black lives, Kai Peterson, a Black trans man who murdered his rapist, would not be in prison, currently serving 20 years in Georgia. Maya Hall's murder would not have gone unnoticed if the law really stood for Black lives. Anthony Sorrell would have never made the news if the law really stood for Black lives. The House of Horrors in Cleveland, Ohio, would have been torn down long before Anthony had the opportunity to capture and detain Black women. If the law really stood for Black lives, you all would know that I fear you, just like Black people fear the police. As a Black trans woman, when I come into a space with you, I don't know if you will kill me, misgender me, out me, or verbally attack me. If the law really stood for Black lives, we would not have to listen to Bill O'Reilly. If the law really stood for Black lives, we wouldn't have had to watch in horror as Black people in Ferguson were not allowed to mourn, grieve, protest, or claim the very city they dominate. If the law really stood for Black lives, Mike Brown's body wouldn't have laid in the street for hours. Detroit would be just as vibrant as it once was. We would not know the name of Black women like Sandra Bland, Raynetta Turner, Kendra Chapman, Joyce Cornell, and Raukina Jones. We wouldn't have to speculate whether or not they committed suicide. We would have confirmation for what we already know about their deaths. If the law really stood for Black lives, 1 out of 2 Black trans women would not have to live with the reality that they will sit in jail at some point in time in their life. Black trans women would have a life expectancy longer than 35 years old. Black trans women would be able to anticipate making more than $10,000 a year. If the law really stood for Black lives, you would know I, as a Black trans woman, am not interested in inclusion. I am not interested in marriage. I am not interested in equality. I am interested in the liberation and the freedom of Black people.